for leading.
Thank you, Tony.
I am this Peace and Justice Coordinator, and I have a sister that works with me for our community. I live in Kansas, and that's where my Salina, and that's where my office is. I do mostly advocacy work. I answer petitions and make phone calls and go to demonstrations when I can downtown. I went to one a week ago Saturday, which was for the issue of no war with Iran.
Yeah, I think I saw you out there.
Everyone's always here.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you too. And then Sister Kris should have that one. I haven't seen her.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you. Does Davis need a team lead folder? Or is he just...
He's helper bee.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I already got them taken care of.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't derelict in my duties.
No, you're great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, good. You're still awake. Don't worry. We're going to really keep you awake all day. My name's Ellen Glover. I'm the field director at the ACLU of Kansas, and we're going to get this started in just a second. But first, I want to ask, this room should just be for Johnson County and then the group that came on the bus from Salina and Cloud. If you're in Douglas County, you should be out in the hallway. So this is teams 1 through 8, I believe. Douglas County, we're going to start your training out in the hallway. I knew they were in here.
Well, good morning. My name is Anita Austin. I am here with Loudlight, and we are a member of the Kansas Coalition for Citizen Participation. We are super excited to be here, and I want to thank all of the coalition partners who helped make this day possible. Woo! I thought there was going to be more now, but a really fantastic list. Well, we are really excited to be with you all today, and together we can make sure that citizens are able to participate in our democracy here in Kansas. Today is so important because it gives us the opportunity to talk to our elected officials about the state of democracy in Kansas. This is the plan for today. We'll start reviewing our legislative priorities that we're going to focus on today. Then we'll train on lobbying tips and the best lobbying tips. We're going to gather out here in the entrance to the Visitor Center for a quick word with legislators and final remarks. And after that, we're going to get together in teams to practice the stuff that we've learned. Once we break into teams, you should all gather together to divide up the roles that you're going to do in your meetings, and then you'll head out to your meetings after that. Your meetings run from about 10 to 2, but feel free to extend your visits later in the afternoon if you can. I know some of the legislators weren't able to take afternoons or appointments until later in the afternoon, so if you're able to stay late to get to talk to someone, that would be fantastic. I'm going to hand things over to Davis. He's going to talk to you about the legislative priorities.
Thank you, Anita. So thank you all for being here. I love these shirts, which they changed the phrase right at the last minute, because how many of y'all feel like it's kind of ridiculous that in this year of 2020 we are still fighting for voting rights, which is allegedly the foundation of our entire nation. So I'm Davis Hammet with Loud Light. We've been a member of the Kansas Coalition for Citizen Participation since it was founded in 2017. And we're glad to show up here to make demands upon our lawmakers to live up to the promise of the United States that on one day, everyone will be equal in being able to decide the future leaders of this nation and this state and our local communities. We know that citizens in Kansas want to fulfill their civic duty to vote on election day, yet thousands are blocked by current Kansas laws. Roughly 80% of the provisional ballots rejected in 2018 did not count simply because they were otherwise eligible to vote, but they didn't have their registration up to date 21 days before the election. SB 351, which was just introduced last week, would amend the law so that election officials count these provisional ballots after confirming a voter's eligibility. This common sense fix would not change anything about how election workers do their jobs. The only change would be counting these eligible votes instead of rejecting them. It's easy to implement, would not increase cost, and would comply with current electoral laws such as photo ID. We want our legislature to ensure that all the votes that are eligible are counted every single election.
So now that you know the basics of the bill and why it's important, we're going to discuss some of the best practices so that you're prepared to talk with your legislators. The five-finger method, it's in your book. It's one of the middle pages in your book. It will help us to have clear and impactful meetings with legislators. So if you forget what to do, you'll just remember those five fingers, which is your introduction. You share your name and why you are here with the Kansas Coalition for Citizen Participation. You frame the issue. Citizens in Kansas want to fulfill their civic duty to vote on election day, yet thousands are getting blocked by Kansas law. Roughly 80% of the provisional ballots rejected in 2018 did not count simply because these otherwise eligible voters didn't have up-to-date voter registration. Why it matters to us, so share a personal story on why this is important to you, and why the legislators should care. Connect your story to Kansas. Kansas is a free state. Our democracy depends on this. And then make the ask. Will you support the bill, the provisional ballot fix? And then check for talking points about the specific bill.
Some helpful things to remember is that you're part of a team, right? You're in this together and you have security in your numbers. Take one or two parts of the agenda if you mess up. Your team's got your back. It's okay to say, I don't know. But also be sure to offer follow-up to get answers. So if in your packet you will have something, your team lead, where if your group cannot answer a question, you write down the question, then you can get it to us and we can have an expert go and talk to them about whatever concern they have. Don't let the legislators distract you. They all have their own priorities, but be sure to stay focused on citizen participation. We believe that experts on these issues are the ones that have lived through the hardships of being disenfranchised. Don't let fancy suits or fancy titles dissuade you, right? These are just people. They actually are, by the way, your employees. And so you should realize you're going in as their boss to check on them and to talk to them about how they could improve their work. So actually, this is not on the script, by the way. So we were given this script, I think, to kind of contain us. So I'm just going to go off the next script. Because we have a few extra minutes, I want to talk kind of about how this legislation came about and the issue you're going to be discussing today with your legislators. So you have, let me see what it looks like. You have a little explainer in here where it says which ballots count and which are thrown out. It looks like this. If you all want to pull that out real quick, I want to go over this because the data in this was like the last year and a half of my life of compiling this. Which took a lawsuit that the ACLU represented us, and then it took so many open records requests to put this together. So really quick, how this came about, y'all might have recalled in 2018, the Republican primary where we had the closest statewide election in state history, right? This was Kris Kobach versus Jeff Colyer, and it was won by less than 350 votes. And in that, there was a lot of questions about provisional ballots that were and weren't counted. And basically, if there's any doubt whenever you go to vote that you're eligible to vote, they have you fill out a provisional ballot and a voter registration form so that they can go check later, right? They have a week where they can investigate before they essentially certify the election. And what we found out is that some counties were counting certain categories of ballots while others weren't. But one of the most shocking things was finding this category where the 21-day registration deadline, which was only expanded in 2011 or 2012, right? It used to be 2 weeks, then it became 3 weeks. So we work on youth voter registration at Loud Light, and we kind of always imagined that category would be mostly young voters. But what we found in the data is actually half of the rejected ballots are people who are already registered to vote in Kansas, but they have moved to another county and they didn't update their registration. So this means, you know, if you move from Johnson County to Wyandotte, if you move from Salina to Cloud County, and you didn't update your registration 3 weeks before, you would go in, you would fill out a form, you would have basically every reason to believe your vote was counted, but your vote would be rejected. And your registration would still be updated though. So it'd be updated for next time, no one would contact you and tell you that it was rejected. And so that's what this bill would do, is it would say that, you know, you're already filling out this voter registration form, and you are already, sorry, Melissa just walked in, I think, probably to check that we weren't going off the script, so I feel a little called out. So they already have all your information, and you showed your photo ID while you were casting your provisional ballot. And then in that week period, whenever they go to look into the system and they see, you know, you're not actively a felon, there's no reason to reject your ballot, that they would just count it. That's what this bill would do. So if you hear people bring up concerns about like voter fraud or whatever, there is actually a period where these ballots are still separated. So if they have any concerns, there's a week to look into it. So this really is, when we talk about a common sense fix, this bill came from a lot of compromises. And the reality is that already we fixed an issue where if you move within county, so if you say you live in Salina and you move, you know, down the street, if you miss that 3-week deadline, your vote still counts. But if you moved across the county line, your vote is rejected. And that's really, I think, the talking point that's really very compelling, because some people will try to call this same-day registration, which you could have an argument about that. But really, if they want to say that, then you could say we already have it for people who move within a county. So anyways, this would basically fix 80% of the votes that are currently thrown out, which is, you know, obviously remarkable. The bill is SB 351. 351.
And unfortunately, I know everybody has thousands of questions, but the last thing I'll leave you with is if you don't know the answer, that's okay. You can say, because you're not election experts, you are regular, everyday citizens who fundamentally believe that it's one person, one vote, and every vote should count, especially if we can verify that we are eligible Kansas citizens, and that's the bottom line. We're going to all gather out here for just a little bit, and then we're going to get together in our small groups afterwards so we can discuss a little bit more strategy and ask more questions. So come on and join me out here for just a couple minutes, and then we can break into our small groups and really have these deep conversations with your local leads.
I am a lawyer and a mediator, and I am the president of the school board in Salina right now, and I am a singer-songwriter, and I am also the vice president of the League of Women Voters, so working on voting rights is something that is important to me.
Good morning, everyone! Good morning! Thank you for joining us for the Kansas Coalition for Citizen Participation Lobby Day. My name is Alejandro Rengo Lopez, and I'm a volunteer for the KCCP. I first got involved in all of this in 2018 when they moved my polling site outside of city limits in Dodge City. And yeah. So that's why I'm here. I'm here 2 years later, and we're still fighting. We fought in 2018 and we won, and if we keep fighting, we can create change across the state and make sure that everybody has access to the right to vote. So please help me in welcoming a state legislator who understands the power and importance of voting, Representative Tim Hodge of the 72nd District from Newton, Kansas.
I will be brief because I'm in a committee meeting right now, but let me say this. You guys need to win elections. And let me ask you a question. How do you win an election? You get more votes than the other teams, okay? We have problems with our schools. Capers gets amortized. It's difficult to get health insurance. Whenever they need money, they come after the working class and the working class and the middle class. The rich never get stuck with anything.
Right.
So my point is, you have to win elections.
That's right.
That means you go out with registrations and clipboards and you go house to house, door to door, and register people. This is the reasons why 25% of our electorate control everybody and make your lives tough. You don't get health insurance, you have to pay a high food sales tax, your water bills go up, every fee you have, you get nickeled and dimed every time you want to get a license or file a deed or anything like that. They've passed the cost of government from the rich down to the working class and middle class. It's got to stop. The only way it's going to stop is if you win elections. And you have to register everybody. You can't be scared of anybody. You got to get out there with your clipboards, register them, get them advanced ballot applications for the primary, for the city, and the general elections, and get them about, make it easy for folks to vote. All right, I got tons of stories about how rewarding it is to do this. Talk to me later. I don't have much time apparently, so thank you for being here. Vote. That's the only way this changes. We can complain all we want, but you got to win elections.
Thank you so much, Representative Hodge. My name is Melissa. I'm the senior organizer for the American Civil Liberties Union of Kansas. And I'm pretty fired up. Y'all fired up?
Yeah!
Ready to fight for some voting rights?
Yeah!
Hello, everyone. I am Nicole. I am also with ACLU. I'm the Central and Western organizer, and I'm super excited to be here, and I'm so glad all of you are here with me just to show everyone in this building how important voting is to us. So thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our trainers today. We hope that the training at least gave you a little bit of courage to go out there, but I'm sure that you all have a ton of questions as well. After this little group here, right? We're gonna go back into the original areas that we were trained in. We're going to get together with our teams. You're gonna meet your team lead, and you're gonna be able to ask some more questions, right? We're gonna practice talking to our legislators, practice talking about this legislation, practice, telling why we care that it's one person, one vote, and every eligible vote should count no matter what. Am I right?
Yes!
If you forget what to say, rely on your team members. And if you don't know what to say, that's okay. You are not supposed to be experts. There's a reason I didn't tell you to wear a suit today. Legislators hear from lobbyists in suits all the livelong day. They need to hear from the voters. Am I right?
Yes!
And please keep in mind, these legislators work for us.
Yeah!
So let's make them do some work, and let's make them do their job.
Like a boss!
Just like that. Thank you so much.
All right, whenever you finish talking with your legislators today, your team leads have report back forms that you're going to write down what pushback your legislators gave to you, what joy that they said, like, yes, I believe in this. So make sure that you write those things down. You come and you join us back in the cafeteria so you can debrief how your conversations went today. And with that, since this is our space, let me introduce two of our amazing volunteers, one Eastern Kansas, one Western Kansas, to bring the state together for voting rights. Come on up, Isidro and Val.
Everybody! As the human megaphone, let's do some participation. Let's chant. Let's let people know we're here. This is Isidro.
On the mark, quiet on the mark.
Yes, no one would ever call me normal. So let's do a little chanting, and then we'll go. I think you'll go back to your meeting rooms to meet with your teams after we're done chanting. So, whose house?
Our house!
Whose house?
Our house!
Whose house?
Our house!
And for those that speak a different language, ¿de quién es esta casa?
Es nuestro!
Es nuestro. ¿De quién es esta casa? Es nuestro. Es nuestro.
Es nuestro!
When voting rights are under attack, what do we do?
Show up and back!
When voting rights are under attack, Keep that in mind. You're the boss today. This is what democracy looks like.
What does democracy look like?
This is what democracy looks like.
And then just how did the meeting go, right? What was the vibe of it? Did they seem supportive? Did they seem skeptical? Were they really excited about it? You know, those little things. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, from awful to awesome, how would you rate the experience of meeting with that legislature?
And so, because it's unclear.
Cindy's 10:30, then Tom Cox at 11:30. We've got Susan. Yep, 11:30.
An hour there?
Yeah, so we have an hour. That's why I'm saying we could stay with Cindy a little longer if we want to, talk to her, you know, see what her plans are.
Then you want to write that down, but you'll still want to talk through some of the points, right? And just be like, you know, we're really concerned about this. This needs to get done. We know that thousands of votes will be thrown out unless we get this done.
Yeah, just try and drop off some literature, make sure, you know, write him a note if you want to. No, I still have 6. Oh. Yeah.
Right. You know, when this concept first came up,
Forgot to update your registration, and you go to vote. If you just moved across the county, somewhere in the county, they count your vote. It becomes a provisional ballot, and then they count it because they look you up and they say, "Oh, you just moved within the county, so we'll count your vote." But if you move across the county line, they have to discard your vote. And so I think it's from back in the time. This is more than I really know, but when they only had the county book, you know, you could only look up who's in your county. But now they go on electronic records and they can see if you've moved in the state somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this bill would say if you're still in the state, you can vote with your provisional ballot, but they will count it if they find you're a legitimate voter in the state.
Oh, okay.
So you don't just throw several thousand votes away
The votes
because
that moved across the county.
somebody, yeah, or even if they moved during that 21 days
Mm-hmm.
that you get caught in the gap, that this would cover that.
Okay. So 351 is the number.
Yeah, SB. So we don't know when. We talked to Randy next. So
Yeah.
we don't know
I'll
when
check
it's.
with him if we have a companion bill in the House or if we find a companion
Apparently
bill in the
there's none
House.
yet.
Yeah, we don't need one, but.
Oh, okay.
If they pass it in the House, then it comes to you, right?
Right. So it can speed up the process if we get later in the session.
They also wanted to emphasize that it actually come to a vote.
Yeah.
That rather than just talk about it and then shelve it somewhere, that it actually get voted on.
That come out of committee.
Yeah. And yeah, because there are a lot of bills that won't get heard just even based on time. But so our
it needs somebody to
questions,
kind of push it.
right, our questions for him will be, is the committee in the Senate one that's likely to get that hearing and get moved out?
I think it's ethics and elections or something.
Okay. And I don't know the chairs over there well enough to know who leads that or what they're.
And Randy's on the committee, so he's.
That helps.
Yeah, it helps.
Right. So that should be all that we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our big ask today.
Yeah.
That if it comes to the House, we hope they will support it.
You will support it.
Yeah, that is an easy ask. I like those. Anyway. Tax exemptions are usually the ask, and then they always have to shudder.
Yeah.
I think we're all
Peace and
thinking
justice.
about democracy's survival at this point. And so voting is, of course, the base of the whole thing.
Speaking of which, where is Kansas with secure voting apparatus? Are we pretty safe here that we're not going to get hijacked by
I
something?
think Saline County's really good, because we got our paper ballots that get read, and but everybody's got their own way of getting voting machines.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Across the board,
I
you
do
don't.
trust the current Secretary of State in their office, and I think our security is adequate. I don't know if we're perfect, great, or what risks to worry about from hacking, but and I don't know that one rises to the top of the list for hacking concern. So
I think the dilemma is everybody has different kinds of machines. There's no consistency. And those are not, I mean, those are privately owned. They just rent them or lease them or whatever. I mean, maybe we buy them, I don't know. But it's been advised, ask for a paper ballot.
Ask for a paper ballot.
Absolutely. Because those machines, you don't know. I
Okay.
mean, like the whole state or the whole country, everybody has different machines from different companies.
Of course, that means it's harder to hack a lot of them, because they're all different.
Yeah.
But then
You've got to be a pretty good hacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm more worried about people who don't even vote, because
Yeah.
there's so many. I mean,
Yeah.
you hear about teachers don't vote, you hear, I mean, at the last election, I was running,
Yeah.
so I had
Yeah.
a dog in the fight, but almost every young person I talked to had not voted, so they didn't figure it was worth it. And that's an information problem that we get. That people are so convinced by the information they get that their vote doesn't count anyway, and that whoever got elected wasn't doing good things anyway, and so why should
disappointed
they?
in what they feel in the process.
Yeah, and so they still vote. So then you don't have a chance at democracy, because you,
Half the country
representative.
tuned out.
Yeah, less than half the country even votes.
Very scary.
So this seems like a bill that you would support?
Yes.
So this has the research
Thank
that
you,
this
Ann.
many were thrown out.
Okay.
Thank you for
This is
catching
the
that.
portion that would be saved by this bill, which
Okay.
is 80% of them. So
Okay.
if you're a felon, you don't get to be counted. And if you're a
Gotcha.
whatever
Most of the
else.
rules still apply.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
In this one particular instance where you get caught in the crack,
Right.
it allows you to be voted
Yeah.
and counted.
So,
So, yeah.
yeah, well, that's certainly, yeah. No,
Okay.
you can.
Thank you very
Good
much,
to see
Steve.
you. So,
Thank you for working on it.
pleasure to see you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And thanks for bringing the bill together. Taking time to travel here. Yeah.
I'm Esme. I'm with the Kansas Coalition for Citizen Participation, and we're here today to lobby for voting rights and increase citizen participation in democracy. We have Kansans here from all across the state who are here to tell their legislators to count their votes.
I just want to acknowledge real quickly, we had some students join us today, and so they are here as part of the Citizen Lobbying Day. And so Mr. Franco, their instructor, is.
And Mr. Gunter is here too. We have Schlegel and Sumner here today.
Schlegel and Sumner.
the students are from those two schools. So, and so this year, they're studying as part of their Saturday school academy. Mental health is what their focus is. So I thought this might be a good opportunity for them to sit in and hear some of the things that you all are sharing with us. So anyway, thank you and welcome, and we appreciate you all coming.
I'm very excited to see all these faces excited about mental health. It just warms my heart. So thank you guys for having an interest in mental and behavioral health and taking time to learn what we can do as a community to better support our patients. So in addition to creating more space, creating more patient care areas, I think it's really important that we also stay up to date with the latest and best treatment options so we can get our patients well. The goal is not to just have this revolving door of here, we're sending you home on these medications. If you take them every day, hopefully you can manage from an ambulatory perspective, but really help our patients get control of their life back and get back to being able to live a normal life. And that's mental wellness. And that's really our goal, is to stop the stigma surrounding mental illness and physical illness, right? People, you know, if someone has a broken arm, they generally go to the ED. When someone has what they might feel like is a broken heart or a depressed heart or a broken brain or cognition that's not being very well, you can't see it. And so it's more embarrassing to reach out for that care. And as a community, over years, we've somehow stigmatized that. And so our biggest passion is really getting people to just see it as wellness. We'll be really excited when we stop having to use the word mental health, right? You don't call the doctor and say, like, I need a physical health appointment, I think I stubbed my toe. You say, I need a doctor's appointment because I'm sick. And so being able to break down that stigma and recognize that it's mental wellness, and mental wellness is just part of our wellness. There's no like line here, give the doctor, I won't get too technical, but I'm pretty sure the two interact, and then it's really important that we treat the whole person.
One of the things that we continue to talk about in the health system is that you should not have to leave Kansas, you should not have to leave Kansas City to get your care. You should be able to have that provided in your community. Proton therapy is a revolutionizing therapy where we focus the radiation treatment directly onto the tumor, whereas, as you mentioned, X-ray actually goes kind of throughout the body and damages tissues and internal organs on its way to the tumor, and then also surpasses the tumor, so it's not as localized. This is a very localized treatment, so you're not damaging those tissues and those organs around tumors. Right now, the closest one to Kansas City is in St. Louis. There are 29 proton therapy programs throughout the United States. Will be the 30th, but there are none closer. There's not one in Nebraska, Colorado, Oklahoma, Iowa, Arkansas. So other than St. Louis, we would be the closest facility. So kind of our timeline around that is it's going to take probably 9 to 12 months for the build of the actual building, and then it will take 9 months for the installation of the two protons in those buildings. So we're looking at about an 18 to 20 month or so before we actually see our first patient. So
a lot of mental health hospitals look a little bit like the institutions on TV. In fact, where I provided mental health services in the Department of Corrections was a more up-to-date facility than what I see when I go tour other psychiatric places, including our state hospital system. I think that's worth noting. And so that was one of the things that we took great pride in doing at Strawberry Hill. For those of you that have been there, were there for the ribbon cutting, you could see that we didn't skimp on any aspect of it. And I think historically the tendency would have been to do that, right? White walls, let's make it simple. We thought colors would agitate people. Well, it turns out institutionalizing people probably wasn't the best goal, right? We want it to feel healing and soothing, and we want our patients in mental health to have just as nice of a patient room as somebody who's inpatient with us getting their cancer needs being taken care of, right? It's just, so the environment is kind of a symbol that you're just as important to us as any other of our patients. A large number of their patients continue in therapy not because they are still fighting the cancer, but because the aftermath of the cancer and all that has left them unable to do, like have children, like everyone's raised to kind of think is gonna happen, right? We're gonna get married, we're gonna have a white picket fence, and we're gonna have kids, and you take all of that away from someone in a heartbeat, and that requires a lot of psychological support to get through. I'm really excited that with the proton therapy, we'll be doing less of that because we'll be able to maintain more of those reproductive organs so that people can recover from cancer and go back to a life that will be as normal as possible. Absolutely. One thing you should know is that I don't think there's any of us in this room or this world that wouldn't benefit from having a psychiatrist or a psychologist in our life. Everyone goes through stress and struggles. It's completely normal. Thoughts of hopelessness do not make you abnormal. That actually would make you a little less human if you didn't have those fluctuations. And so if you feel like something is wrong, it's not you. It's not you at all. It's us. It's the system. It's what's being done to you. We practice from a very trauma-informed perspective, which is not saying to a patient, what's wrong with you, but saying, what happened, right? Because we all turned out to be who we are based on a culmination of how we were raised, what experiences we have been through, and that really shapes our lives in ways when we're children that we don't really have control of later. And we get to gain control of that, but that's really hard during adolescence and early 20s. Something that you should know is that we do have a lot of behavioral health services within the University of Kansas health system for children and adolescents. We have an 84-bed hospital in Overland Park, Kansas, which is called Marillac. And that is a child and adolescent psychiatric hospital. Within that, we just opened up a new 32-bed unit called Insights. That unit is designed for adolescents who are struggling with thoughts of suicide. It's targeted just to that. We used to co-mingle patients based on age in that campus rather than based on symptoms. And so if somebody was having if you were struggling with thoughts of suicide, but someone else that you were in the hospital with, who maybe you were in a group with or were in an art therapy class with, was struggling with something really different, like maybe a behavioral issue like OCD or something like that, something that's more intrusive thoughts and behavioral, we've decided to separate out the populations a little bit so that we can really target, a lot like the proton therapy, right? Really target to that specific issue. So we know that, and unfortunately, we first opened 16 beds of the Insights unit at Marillac. They were all full the next day. So talk about kind of panic on my part, right? That meant there were 16 people waiting. You guys tell me what we can do better to make mental health work better for your peers and friends.
Let me make an important point. If you are feeling bad, sad, like you can't continue, or you're worried about one of your classmates or family members, talk to your counselors in the schools. We work with them. And get yourself the help that you need. It's an important thing.
And you might as well do it now, because I promise life does not slow down any from here. So do it early so that you can enjoy your college years and your 20s, because they can be a really good time, but it is a really stressful time. So it really helps to have that adequate support wrapped around to make sure you can get that.
Yes, and you should.
Yes, please grow up and be a child psychiatrist. We know a great place that you can work, and we'd love to recruit you. Also, psychiatric nursing is something, just like the stigma around reaching out for mental health care, I also think there is some stigma about being a mental health care provider. And nursing is true too. I've actually heard nursing schools make comments like, oh, if you graduate with your RN, don't go to psych, right? Because you'll lose your skills. I want you to know that that is the hardest place to be a nurse, and it is challenging and it's fun, and the day goes by, and the reward you get from helping someone, the way that makes you feel in your heart by being able to help somebody else feel better is just the biggest gift you could give yourself. So I encourage you to consider helping professions like that, because it's just been the most rewarding part of my life, and I think you might find it worthwhile.
Such a wonderful presentation. I'm so glad the students were able to join us here. Okay.
First, I'm going to shut the door. Just because it gets a little noisy out there.
So this week, with Kansas Coalition of Citizen Participation, and so basically we're a nonpartisan group trying to engage the citizenry and get everybody voting, the right to vote, eligible to vote. But in particular, today we're talking about Senate Bill 351, which is basically a bill that will fill a gap, a loophole, in essence, in allowing provisional ballots to be voted. Currently, if someone comes in, they forgot to update their registration and they were outside the 21-day period, they go in, their name's not on the roll, they fill out a provisional ballot. Then when the county canvasses afterwards and they look at it, the ballot might count or it might not count based on a currently narrowly written Kansas law.
Right.
So this bill is to fix that so that as long as they were an eligible voter when they walked in, all of the county commissions will have the same rules, and they'll go in and look at it and say, okay, you were eligible, you just didn't get around to updating, we're going to count your vote. So that's basically what it does.
Cool. Amen.
Good.
Previously, I think they were covered within the county to have that happen, but now we have problems with people that may move from one county to the other. Or I think with some of our college students, maybe they move in to go to school, and that's where they want to vote, and then it gets mixed up.
Right.
And so I think the most important thing is for, any of your colleagues who might have reservations, is just to point out we're not putting any more burdens on the county, we're not really changing the rules, we're just trying to make sure that if someone was eligible when they walked in the door, that the commissioners will all now know, yes, as soon as we certify that they're eligible, their vote will count. So I think it's an education process with everybody to make sure they understand this isn't trying to do anything other than that.
Okay. So this would update, so this wouldn't go from county to county, right? That would still be an issue.
No.
This would remedy that issue.
Yeah, this would remedy that.
Okay.
This would be statewide. It would remedy the fact that there's some inconsistencies, probably as much as how county officials are even interpreting the existing law.
Right.
Because it's been kind of a mishmash of different ways to fix narrow problems instead of a global way to just fix the problem of allowing provisional ballots to vote.
Okay.
It's under section 1, paragraph C.
Perfect.
It has this clause in it. That's the change.
So I don't know that there's been a House bill assigned yet. Is that correct?
No.
Right now it's just a Senate bill number. I think it was just read last Friday. I think when I talked to Dinah Sykes, she was going to find out when they were going to schedule a hearing, but she hadn't seen that yet.
Okay.
So.
So anything we can do to make sure that not only are they able to cast their ballot, but also know that it counted.
Exactly, because this happens a lot to college kids. Right when we're convincing them that they should participate in our democracy. And then if they go in and this happens, they're going to go, see, it's always what I thought. They don't want me to vote. And so this will help fix a lot of that as
And there
well.
were 2 other examples that they gave that people had experienced. One of them was a family of immigrants, and their 18-year-old son had become an American citizen and wanted to vote. And he was just 2 days short of being able to register. Same thing happened to a person that was a convicted felon who had fulfilled all his obligations and was able to vote, but that, again, his eligibility fell within that time frame where he wasn't able to. And since it's so easily accessible electronically, and it's no extra cost, it's no extra bother. They're looking it up and ensuring that they are registered for next time.
Right.
There's no sense in not having that provisional ballot accepted.
Exactly. I'm all in. So, yay.
Yeah, okay, wonderful.
Perfect.
Yes,
Cool.
that's my sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mine
talked
too.
to her earlier.
Yeah, well, thank you all so much for coming.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you again. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for
your
time.
Thank you.
Vanelin Stoichev. I'm from Bulgaria and I'm here for my Fulbright research project focused on civil society development, and my hosting organization here is Kansas Appleseed. It's an advocacy organization. My Bulgarian NGO is also an advocacy organization named Largo. My research project here in Kansas is focused on advocacy for vulnerable social groups. For example, disabled people, people of color, pregnant teenagers, pregnant moms, all these people that need some kind of support. Well, I'm focused on democracy culture, democracy procedures, so for me it's very important and very helpful to compare these different viewpoints, these different perspectives, people from different political background, political parties, to share their views and their opinions, so that's very important to me. The process of negotiating certain bills and to talk about our common values, our common ground, the common interest. The procedures here are very different comparing to Europe, but I believe that what is going on here is this gap between what is legal and what is legitimate. And for me, it's very important for all societies all over the world to fill this gap, because if people don't believe that the procedures are legitimate enough, they don't participate. So it's important to encourage people to participate. It's a precondition for working democracy. In Bulgaria, the US has always been a model for democracy. So now it's very hard to copy this model because there are a lot of contradictions here, a lot of people just looking for a good model for best practices for democracy. And unfortunately, I don't believe there are a lot of people that still believe that American society is a model for democracy and democratic procedures. I don't want to talk in terms of political participation, in terms of political parties, but I really do believe that it's important to have this debate and to try to build these bridges between different political perspectives. So I believe that he's trying to build these bridges. He's trying to reunite the society again in a positive way.
Well, our group had, I think, some easy people to visit with, because Senator Randall Hardy is the author of that bill for counting provisional ballots. And Diana Dirks is very reasonable, so she's for it. And so is Stephen Johnson. We did not meet with Wagner from Hutchinson because we didn't have an appointment with him, but we did go to his office and left the material there. And we didn't meet with J.R. Clays because we didn't have a schedule for him either. Although when we went up there, he was in his office, but the secretary said he was very busy. So we left the material there too, and Ann Zimmerman wrote a note on the sheet.
I would guess it's going to go through without too much trouble. But you never know. Maybe the leadership will decide it's not important enough to change. So we did learn a little about the procedure when we were speaking with Senator Randall Hardy, who introduced the bill. And it all depends on the leadership in the Senate whether it gets a vote or not. If it gets a vote in the Senate, then and it passes, then it goes in some form to the House, and then they get to vote on it there if their leadership decides it's important. So there are a lot of places it could get tripped up, but it seems to be a fairly straightforward bill that doesn't upset too many people.
You think our Constitution is going to survive what's going on now?
Oh, I have my fears and my doubts, but hopefully there's enough good people that will bring a balance about what is and do what is right for the democracy.
Try to get people to understand that their vote counts and that it matters. People think their vote doesn't matter. And if the votes are not being counted, then it's true that it doesn't matter. But the more they get counted, then the more your vote matters whenever you cast it. Yes, I have hope for the future of democracy. But it's no guarantee that we keep it, so we got to keep working on it.
It was a pleasant experience, and I'm glad I came. And it was hopeful to see so many people there knowing that they were doing the same thing, that they were visiting their legislators.
Yeah.